Hello and welcome to another Nickjitsu guitar lesson. Today we're going to be looking at some musical exercises, which are little excerpts of bits of music that are quite tricky to play and will, get your fingers moving. And I'm using mainly classical music today. No, not that sort of classical music. No, we're not doing any classical guitar stuff. We're going to be looking at mainly violin stuff with a wee organ at the front end. And we're looking at that mainly because it's going to take us out our comfort zone as guitar players. And we're going to be playing stuff that you wouldn't normally play on guitar a lot of the time. And a lot of the music's out of copyright as well, which is great. So without further ado, let's go for it. So we're going to start with this piece. The first one we're going to look at is Tocatta and Fugue by Bach. And that's Bach, not Bach. We'll have none of your dodgy accent shenanigans going on here. If you can't speak properly, away and do some rap music or something. It's ba, so think of a sheep, ba, and then like you got something stuck in your throat. So every time you listen to Bach, think of a sheep that's got something stuck in its throat. Anyway. We're going to take a little bit of one of the themes. I've transposed it into G to make it easier. It's actually one of the first things I ever learned on guitar, apart from the whole of Live After Death by Iron Maiden. So what you're going to play is you're going to play... just like that. It seems quite simple. And it's just all on the G, apart from when it's not. And you basically end up playing the open string. And then 5, 7, 8, 5. And then 7, 8, 10, 7. 8, 10, 12, 10. 8, 12, 10, 8. And then 10, 12, 13, 10. And then you do this backwards pattern. It's kind of like skip one, up one, skip one, up one. So you're going from 12 to 8 to 10 to 7, 8 to 5 to 7 to 4 to 5, and then the exciting bit. We roll over from the G string 5th fret to the D string 5th fret, and then we play the 6th fret on the D, and then the 3rd fret on the D, and then we end on the 5 on the D. So like that. Now, you want a challenge, don't you? We know you want a challenge. So, this is your wee challenge. You put an open string in between every note. Even when you get onto the D string, you put an open G in between every one of the notes. What that does is that mimics what's actually in the piece itself. As you play it, it's actually played starting on the note of A, not on the note of G. It's in D harmonic minor, the whole piece, but it starts on the A. And when I play it, use my little string dampener there. Something like that. That's how it's actually played on the organ. So other people have used it though. There's Richie Blackmore used it on Death Alley Driver on the Rainbow Song. So he did it in A as well. Sky, that's where I actually learned that little theme from when I was much younger. And it's used in movies all over the place. It was used in one of my favourite movies it was used in was Rollerball. The original 70s one, not the remake. Alright? We don't speak about remakes. It was also used in La Dolce Vita, I do believe, which is Italian for rollerball. So there you go. Next up for your delectation is In the Hall of the Mountain King, which you'll probably know. It was written by Edward Grieg, and it's part of the Peer Gynt suite, which was a play, which I think, Peer Gynt sounds Welsh. I think it was written about the original Welsh guy who invented Alton Towers. That's why they keep playing the music there. I won't be held responsible for you practicing this endlessly and then going to Alton Towers. You will drive yourself bananas. But you know the music. You know that theme. So what you're doing is you're playing 2nd fret on the G, 4th fret on the G, 5th fret on the G, and then you're going up to 3rd fret on the B, and then 5th fret on the B. Now, when you get to the 5th fret on the B, you're going to roll your finger. You're going to kind of, instead of your finger hitting cleanly on the note, it's going to hit flat, so that when you actually roll it over, it's going to be able to play the string below, this being below. So 5, 5, 5, and then you do the same on the 4th fret with your next finger, with the 3rd finger, and you do the same on the 3rd fret with your 2nd finger. You repeat that, you get as far as the 5th fret, and you roll down the way and roll up the way, this being up. That's why guitarists have an inverted sense of reality. So 5, 5, 5, 5, and then right here you've got the 3rd fret on the E, and then 5 on the B, 5 on the G, 5 on the B again, and then end on the 3. So you get this. The rest of the tune follows that kind of idea, because you're actually playing up here, but you kind of convert it a little bit to E major. It's kind of a majory dominant type idea, but there's another part which is the same. Then you're back to the original, which is an octave up. And you keep on playing it faster and faster and faster, and then eventually your head explodes. Thank you very much. Next up we have Czardas, which apparently is the proper way of pronouncing that. I was told by some Hungarians from Hungary that's how you say it. However, if you go on Google Translate, you get this.
Czardas.
This is a Hungarian piece written by an Italian guy called Vittorio Monti. He was only really well known for writing Czardas, and he moved to Paris, and I think the only other thing that he wrote that was of note was Noël de Pierrot, which roughly translates as Noel is French for Christmas, de is of or the or at or something, and Pierrot sounds like parrot, so it's the Christmas Parrot. Don't think it was very successful. Anyway, this is the piece. You probably know it. That's it. So it sounds like running away music, really. You know, that kind of thing. But the bit I want to look at is just the very simple, is this little bit. It seems quite innocuous and quite easy, and it essentially is. It's very similar to what I talked about in my previous video on non-musical finger exercises. But all you're doing here is you're playing on the D string, you're playing the 12th, 14th, 15th, 14th. And on the 4th time you play it, you play 12, 14, 15, 12. And then you go up to the 15th again. 15, 14, 13, 14. And it's just that little switch. You kind of get in a false sense of security doing. You could do that forever, but you've got that little change, and that's what you've got to practice. You take your eye off the ball for a split second, you get it wrong. Just like I kind of did. I was playing jazz, really. Anyway, it then goes on. So you're doing it 3 times in 3 different positions. So there's another weird little bit in Czardas where you're playing a C major arpeggio that's got a major 7th in it and a minor 7th. Woo! And what you're doing is you're going to play the 10th fret on the D, 9th fret on the D, back to the 10th fret. And then the 9th fret on the G, and then the 8th fret on the B, and then the 11th fret on the B. And then back again. One of the best versions I ever heard of this was Martin Taylor, actually. Pretty much every violinist plays it, but Martin Taylor does a fantastic version on the album, on that album by Martin Taylor. So yeah, check out that album by Martin Taylor. Next up is Le Quattro Stagioni. I think that's how you pronounce it, which roughly translates means Rollerball, the Unnecessary Remake. Which is a little dig that Vivaldi has about remakes. Stop making remakes, everybody. Even Vivaldi says so. Anyway, he wrote a wee piece called The Four Seasons, all about various pizza toppings. And the first one he does is lamb from Spring. And it's when the lambs come out to play, you get the... That's the lambs skipping about and learning how to say Bach properly by getting flies stuck on their throats. And then you get the wee birdie bit. And then it goes on a wee bit, and then you get a wee thunderstorm happening with the... Oops, help if I played the right frets. And then what you get next is you get a little... it's meant to be his version of a thunderstorm, and it's got some great little exercises in it, and that's the exercise we're going to look at. Now, it's quite a tricky thing to play because your fingers, it's just not very friendly for the fingers. What you're basically playing is an E major arpeggio and an E major 7 arpeggio, and then ending on a C sharp. So what you're doing is you're playing fret 16 and 13 to 16, and then you're playing 17 to 12 to 17, and you're alternating them. Do that twice, and then you play the same thing again, but instead of playing 17 on the B string, you play 16, and that's where it becomes difficult. You see, I'm just kind of coughing that note a wee bit, and then finally you can go, as you progress through that part, the thunderstorm part of Spring, you end up with this kind of really stretchy kind of exercise here. So I'm going to throw in another bonus for this one. What we're doing here is we're playing, we're going to play the 13th fret on the G, the 9th fret on the G back to the 13th. And then, this is kind of weird, what you're going to do is you're going to play the 9th fret on the E, and then hammer out, I'm plucking the 9th fret on the E, and then alternating that with the 13th fret on the G, but I'm hammering that on, like that. So that's a pull off, and a hammer on, and then that's a note, and then that's a hammer on. And then you can manipulate it to... like that, you get that kind of sound. It's quite tricky to do, but when you put the whole thing together, as you'll see in a second, it sounds quite cool. But when you speed the tempo up, the trick I use is to try and relax, especially my shoulder. Your shoulder, it sometimes creeps up like this when you play something fast. So don't forget to breathe and keep your shoulders relaxed. sax. Good grief, we're at number 5 already. And I've chosen something that's a wee bit more of a challenge for this one. It's by a guy called Niccolo Paganini. And Niccolo is Italian for Nickjitsu. What are the chances of us having the same name? Anyway, you probably know the piece that I've chosen. Any Paganini is going to be a bit of a nightmare to play. I mean, it's written for violin, a lot of it, although he was a really good guitar player. There's a lot of really good Paganini guitar music, but this stuff's a nightmare to play on the violin. It's a nightmare on the guitar. It's hellish to play on a kazoo. But, you lucky people, I'm going to show you a wee bit of the 24th Caprice, which each part of that is its own exercise. You probably know it, you cultured folk amongst you will know it from the old... you know, the old South Bank show. That was actually written by Andrew Lloyd Webber. Fun fact. I used to love the way that Spitting Image used to make Andrew Lloyd Webber out. He would look like this really angry cocktail onion. Bring back Spitting Image, please, please. Anyway, the bit that I want to look at isn't the... because, you know, most people can play that. It's not terribly difficult, and I don't think it's that much of an exercise, really, compared to what we've done before. It's very similar. So, I've chosen one of the other variations. I forget which number it is, but... that's quite a challenge, because that's got quite a lot in it. And that builds you up to play things like Flight of the Bumblebee and some of the more difficult things that are in the 24th Caprice. So let's look at that. You start off by playing the G 14th fret, and then we're going to go all the way up to 17th on the E, 16th on the E, 15th on the E, then 14th on the E. And we're going to continue down chromatically, 18 on the B, 17 on the B, and then 16 on the B. So you get this. And then you're going to go all the way back up to the 18th, 17th and 16th, and then 18th again, and 17th. Once you get to here, you're going to play an arpeggio, you're going to play an E. So we're going to play that note there, which is the E. Then we're going to play the 12th fret on the B, the 13th fret on the G, and the 14th fret on the D. And then you repeat the whole thing. And just when you think you're going to do another arpeggio, you just play an E. Any part of the 24th Caprice is going to be a challenge. And it's something you can use as a long-term goal. You can take any part of it, you know. The very first part, you can take the second part. You can take the... it's got a horrendous double stops thing in it. Horrendous. What else has it got? It's got loads of bits, you know. Tapping, it's got all kinds of stuff. You've got the big arpeggio at the end as well. You've got the... that kind of thing. It's a complete headache to play, but, you know, if you're interested, I'll do a full video on the 24th Caprice, the way that I play it. So I hope that's given you a few ideas with musical exercises. These are the kind of things that you can, you know, sit and play in a guitar shop and impress everybody, or impress your granny or whoever. But ultimately, when it comes to actually performing those pieces, play them musically. Find out what's actually in the tune. So I'm always joking about with things, but something like the Four Seasons, when you play the thunder part, make it sound like thunder. Or think about thunder when you play it. When you play the lambs bit, don't forget they're spitting out flies and trying to say Bach. So play it like that. You know, be sympathetic to the music all the time. So hope you enjoyed that. Hit the doodah with the thing and press the what's it and subscribe to the thing. And I'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Oi! switch that camera off.